today we're going to be looking at structural reports. So when you're logged in to your database, you'll be presented with this page. So it's broken down into two sections. We have an overview page and an advanced section. We're going to be focusing on the overview page today. So I'll just give you a quick run through of what you can see. So we have our structural status chart here, broken down into these categories. We have electrical defects, if this is any of the works we've undertaken, so this will be identified here. Any limitations that we recorded, a breakdown of estimated residual lives, column heights, column materials. So today we're going to be focusing on this first section, structural status. So as you can see, they're broken down into these categories. So we have green visuals, greens, ambers, red upgrades, and reds. And we have two options below. So for a structural inspection test results, you can run as a PDF or as an Excel. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight the greens. We're going to come back to this drop down. We're going to select PDFs. We're going to include the photos. We're going to submit. And we're going to download the file. So the first page you're presented with is the periodic structural inspection and testing report for highway electrical equipment. We are looking at last results only, status green, and this report contains 107 structural inspection records. So here we're looking at the first report. So you're given the basic information of the unit. So we have the equipment number, unit IDs, they've been provided, zone names, streets, the unit number on site, unit type, secondary location details, the inspection and test date, the next inspection and test date, estimated residual life, and a commission date. So here we have our risk chart. So on our visual examination of the unit and a dipstick test, we deem this unit to be green. Then we move on to the next scoring method. So the normal height for this is 10 meters. This means that the overall unit stays as a green. I'm going to look at the road speed. The road speed for this is 30. So every unit risk assessment stays at green. So the final outcome for this column is green. Here we have a risk indicator score, which I'll be going into a little bit more detail in a moment. Any recommendations? So we recommend that this is retested again within 72 months. There's no maintenance observations for this unit. And here we have the photos of the tested units. So this report is provided for every unit that we test. Same information, the risk chart. And what we also have is our target. So all units will be set up to have a root, a swage, and a visual test. So this has had a root test, no swage test, units not swaged, and then a visual test. And as you would have seen there was a risk indicator score, which if there's no defects in the columns, won't necessarily play a part. So we're going to have a look at the red upgraded columns. So we're going to run the same report, download the file, presented with the same first initial page. So last results only, red upgrades, and this report contains 42 structural inspections. So here we have the same information. So equipment numbers, unit IDs, the status, so red upgrade, zone, streets, the unit numbers, the unit types, locations, the inspected and tested date, the next inspection test date, estimated residual lives, and then commission dates. So here we have our initial assessment using having a visual and a dipstick test. So we deem this column on first initial assessment to be an amber. Then we move into our risk multiplier. So the normal height of this is 10 meters, which using the amber score and then using the multiplier moves this column into the red upgraded status. The road speed for this is 30, which means the unit stays at red upgraded status. So the final outcome is red. This is where you get our risk indicator score highlighted just here. So once our units move over 260, we deem them to be red upgrades. So what we recommend for this is that the unit is replaced as soon as is reasonably practical. Again, listed any maintenance observations. And here we can see, so as I mentioned, on the visual inspection and dipstick test, we deemed this column to be amber. So really clear here, you can see rust around the door, all inside the base compartment, protective conditioning, all the paint coming away and some more visual rust. And then we've also recorded a loss using the dipstick. So what we're going to do is we're going to come out of this report and we're just going to look at our risk indicated scoring method just in a little bit more detail. So here we're going to be looking at our risk score indicators in a little bit more detail and explain to you how we come to these conclusions. So the outline, the purpose of this document, is to show you the algorithm that we use to classify units that we structurally test and inspect. Currently we have a worst structural state of which a unit can be red high, red low, amber high and amber low. So you won't see these defects on our new database now, but for those that have used the older database, you would have seen these. We're now classing these as maintenance defects, as they do not affect the worst structural state. Just below this we have the algorithm details, so how the risk multiplier score is calculated. So we have final score equals the defect score multiplied by the height multiplied by the road speed. The defect scoring is broken down into these defect reporting categories, which are each assigned a defect score. When looking at S17 defect scoring, this is all outlined and explained below. So to calculate the actual score for S17, we have to work out a multiplier between 1 and 2, which gets applied to the S17 score of 200. This is all broken down and explained in further detail below. Then also in this document, you have a really good example, well, two examples of how a risk indicator score can change based on similar defects. A breakdown of how the height multipliers affect the defect score, the road speed multipliers, and then here at the bottom of the document we have two example units.